The 19-year-old college freshman's demonic possession was accepted by the Catholic Church in an incredibly rare judgment. The exorcism of Emily Rose follows the harrowing trial of the priest who is accused of negligence that led to the death of the little girl who is thought to be possessed and the attorney who accepts the responsibility of defending him. The story is told in flashbacks. When Laura Linney's lawyer Aaron Bruner defends Father Richard Moore Tom Wilkinson, a priest who performed an exorcism on a young woman named Emily Rose Jennifer Carpenter, as Bruner becomes aware that her profession thus far has not satisfied her, she must fight against the state attorney as well as her own loneliness. Despite her reluctance, she accepts the case because she thinks it will advance her to senior partner at her law firm. Only if he is permitted to share Emily's story does the priest agree to let her defend him. Ethan Thomas, the prosecutor, calls a number of medical experts during the course of the trial. According to testimony from one specialist, Emily had epilepsy and psychosis. The defense disputes the possibility that she was genuinely possessed, but Bruner is careful not to first say it in so many words. Indeed, according to Bruner, Emily was afflicted with a condition that neither psychology nor medicine could diagnose. And both Father Moore and her family were aware of this and made other attempts to assist Emily. Several flashbacks reveal the beginning of this. One night at 3:00 a.m., she is by herself in her dorm room when she smells a weird burning scent coming from the corridor. When she checks on it, she observes the door repeatedly opening and closing by itself. When she returns to her room, a jar of pencils and pens is moving on its own. She also feels as though a heavy weight is pressing down on her, choking her, and briefly possessing her. Her covers also tumble down on themselves. Throughout these experiences, she questions whether what is happening is genuine or if she is having a hallucination. As her visions worsen, she is admitted to the hospital and given an epilepsy diagnosis. She maintains that the anti-seizure meds she is given don't function. Her intense physical writhing and visions both go on. She finishes her education and moves back in with her parents. She and her parents start to believe that she is possessed by demons rather than epileptic or mentally ill. They request that their neighborhood parish priest be summoned to execute an exorcism, and the church grants their request. The defense responds that all of this might be explained by a mix of insanity, the visions, and epilepsy, the contortions. At 3:00 a.m., Bruner starts to notice odd events in her flat, including odd sounds and odors. Father Moore cautions her that she might come under attack from demons if she exposes them. In a later scene of the movie, Father Moore explains that the witching hour 3:00 OOM is when wicked spirits mock the Holy Trinity. It is significant as it is the opposite of 3:00 p.m. Bruner makes the decision to attempt to prove that Emily might have genuinely been possessed after observing that the prosecution is making what appears to be a strong medical case. She asks Dr. Sadira Adani, an anthropologist, to speak in court about how different cultures see spiritual possession. A medical professional who was present for the exorcism, Graham Cartwright, steps forward to disclose an audio recording of the ritual. The priest is then asked to take the witness stand. After playing the footage, the film cuts back to the exorcism. Father Moore believes it could be simpler to summon the demons on Halloween night, therefore it is executed on that night. In the space with the priest are her father, Emily's boyfriend Jason, and the priest. The bed is secured to Emily. In addition to using phrases from the Ritual Romanum, the priest also utilizes holy water. Latin, German, Ancient Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic are among the tongues she uses to communicate. The family's pets hurry into the room and pounce on the priest, knocking him to the ground. Emily releases her restraints and rushes toward the barn after jumping out of the window. They adhere to her. They experience other paranormal events within the barn, including strange wind gusts and demonic shouts and voices. Following numerous requests from the presiding father, Emily's inner demon finally admits contemptuously that there are not only one, but 6 demons. Then, in dramatic fashion, they introduce themselves by introducing themselves one after another into voices coming from Emily. They introduce themselves as a member of the Legion and the demons who controlled Cain, Nero, and Judas Iscariot. Beyond that, 2 demons identify themselves as Lucifer, the devil in the flesh, and Belial. The courtroom is where the movie returns. The priest claims that Emily, having accepted her fate, refused both a second exorcism and her antipsychotic medicine after that. Few weeks later, she passed away. The prosecutor claims that her ability to talk in tongues can be explained by the fact that she studied German in high school and went through the Catholic Catechism, where she had the opportunity to master the ancient languages. The priest concedes that it's likely she picked up these languages at school. The doctor is then intended to be called as a witness by Bruner, but he fails to appear. He is in the street when she steps outdoors. He claims he cannot testify any longer, but he still believes in demons. He is hit by a car and killed before he has a chance to explain. Later that evening, Brunner's supervisor informs her that she has botched the entire trial, and that she would be fired if she calls the priest back to the stand. Brunner nevertheless summons the priest to the witness stand the next day. He examines a letter Emily wrote to him just before she passed away. The day after the exorcism, Emily writes about another vision she experienced in the letter. After leaving the house, she encounters the Virgin Mary, who informs her that while the demons won't leave her, she has the ability to leave her body and put an end to her misery. The apparition continues by saying that if she goes back to her physical form, she will aid in establishing the reality of God and the devil. She decides to go back. She asks, people say that God is dead, but how can they think that if I show them the devil? As she ends the letter, the priest interprets her subsequent stigmata as a sign of God's love for her, while the prosecution argues that the wounds could have come from a barbed wire fence on her property. Father Moore is finally found guilty, but the judge orders a sentence of time served when the jury suggests it. Despite occasionally being asked separately to sentence offenders, juries are only permitted to respond to issues that are directly addressed to them in modern American legal practice. The jury's verdict in this hypothetical case deviates from standard American procedure. In exchange for sparing Father Moore from a lengthy prison sentence, Brunner is given a partnership at her company, but she declines and ultimately leaves. She travels with Father Moore to Emily's tomb, where he has inscribed a verse from Philippians 2:12, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling," which she had recited to him the day before she passed away.